sort of dock and do their thing, then that would mean that they were involved in the trafficking trade. That's what I heard up until. Anything you said after that, I don't know what it was.
That's all I said. That's pretty much what I was saying.
Oh, okay. But that wouldn't mean that they were buying, selling, or transporting.
No, that literally would be. That mean that they would be facilitating the buying and selling of human trafficking. And that's the reason why they'll be implicated.
How would they be facilitating it if no buying or selling was happening in their land? And a big difference between I accept your analogy, but the big difference is back in the day where Sweden had the colony of St. Bartholomew, trading slaves wasn't illegal. Trafficking is illegal. So that makes it a completely different thing. But yes, even though slave ships were docking in Sweden's colony, there was no trade going on at Sweden's colony, and Sweden did not participate whatsoever in the buying, selling, trading, or transportation of anybody from Africa. Even though we had a colony in Africa, we never enslaved anybody there. We never transported anybody from there.
Fam. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, I'm a human trafficker. If you allow for me to keep my cargo at your house, are you involved with human trafficking?
If I allow you to keep,
if you allow for me to keep the humans, I'm human trafficking at your house, are you involved with human trafficking?
Oh, you could say guilty by association, couldn't you?
Yes. So with that same logic, can you at least acknowledge that it's guilty by association in terms of slave trade? At least.
I wouldn't say in that situation we were guilty by association, because if I keep your dodgy whatever at my house, that's a personal involvement, isn't it? That's something I am personally getting involved in. Whereas a colony is a slightly different setup, because we need to charge ships to dock. Otherwise, the economy of that colony, and therefore the people of that colony, which includes Caribbean natives, can't be sustained. If you come to me and you say, right, I want to keep whatever it might be at your house, and I say, oh, yeah, that's all right, mate. You come and do that, then you could argue that I'm guilty by association, because I don't need to do that. I don't need that. I go to work every day. It doesn't affect my life. It doesn't affect my own personal economy, if that's what you want to call it. But when you're in a position where if you don't charge ships to dock, or you don't allow them to dock because of their cargo, everyone on your island will suffer. Then that's a completely different ballgame. You're dealing with an economy. You're not dealing with an individual. So I think that's a completely different story.
I'm about to this right here comes from an article titled "The Little Known Role Sweden Played in Colonial Slave Trade." This is what it says. I'm about to pronounce this wrong. I'm gonna try though. You feel me? It says Skeppbroken, a quay in Gamla is where Sweden's first slave trade expedition landed on its return from the Caribbean, with 4 black children on board who were brought to Sweden, likely ended as slaves for wealthy Stockholmers, not far away in the Slussen area, where an iron from Swedish mines was sent to slave trading countries, including the UK. This article right here is that not only was Sweden involved in the slave trade, it is making the argument that says that the economy within Sweden literally would not be what it is without African labor, specifically when it comes to the miners that got sent to do slave trade. They got sent to do labor.
Yeah, we made some good iron. And yet we sold a lot of it to Great Britain, who used it in their ship.
What this argument is saying is that the sweet iron that you acknowledging, that a lot of labor to make that iron was used from African slaves. So you're acknowledging what I was acknowledging, that you know that Sweden has an impeccable history when it comes to producing iron. I'm acknowledging that through of slavery, Sweden used African labor to be able to build their economy when it comes to iron.
What evidence is there to suggest that the labor was African?
I'm telling you, this article right here is titled "The Little Known Role Sweden Played in African Slave Trade." It comes from literally, as a matter of fact, this source I'm using is from Sweden. I'll turn it around and show you this woman right here. His name is Catherine. I'm gonna show you though. I'm gonna turn around the camera so you know I ain't lying. The little known role Sweden played in the colonial slave trade. This is the part I read to you right here. about how Sweden was using African labor to build and develop the iron in your country.
Where does it say they were African?
Where it say that was African? It says that right here that the 4 black children was brought from the Caribbean. And if you want to take up the argument that all black people from the Caribbean is not African, we can have that debate too. You're gonna lose that one. You feel me?
But they were
definitely winning that the illiterate economy of Sweden cannot be understood without accounting for the history of slave labor.
Right. A lot of people from the Caribbean, their descendants are from Africa. I think we'll both agree on that. However, the people that may or may not have been, there's no hard evidence to suggest it, but let's just say kids from the Caribbean were taken to Sweden, and there's also no hard evidence to suggest that they were enslaved once in Sweden either. But let's just say
I got hard evidence. I got hard evidence right here. Literally, I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see what I'm reading, so you can see it's not my words, so you can see it's somebody else that came from research. It says, this was, this right here, the part I'm reading right here. This was to be used as chains and shackles and many more things during the slave trade. These are central locations and people go past them every day without thinking about the meaning that they had for the Swedish economy and the black people who were victims. He says, that's what it says right there. I'm not making none of this up. It literally says that what you're talking about, you are ignoring how the Swedish economy, you feel me, is structured by black victims. That's literally what this article is saying. And I can go out right here and show you. All I have to do is go to Google and type in Sweden and African slave trade. And this all this stuff came up right here.
I don't think 4 kids from the Caribbean really make a huge amount of difference to a country's economy. But okay.
No. Oh, hold on. Let me.
You talking about the
right here what Cam thought he was doing cute at. Let me go back and recharacterize right here. This is giving you an instance of 4 people. It's not saying the totality of the Swedish economy can be linked to 4 slaves. It's not saying that. What it is saying is that we have a specific instance of 4 black people being sent to Sweden to goddamn mine iron. That's what it is saying. It's not saying that there's only 4 slaves in Sweden. You feel me? We ain't got to go there. But if I need to pull out more articles to give you a number to substantiate how many slaves in Sweden, we can do that too.
I'm not really interested in art. Firstly, there's no hard evidence to suggest that those kids taken from the Caribbean were actually used as slaves. They may have had very good lives. We don't know what happened to them. Maybe they were used as slaves. I very much doubt it because there's never been a culture of slavery within Sweden, really. I mean, even if you look at the slaves on the colony of St. Bartholomew, they were treated pretty well. Can you provide any hard evidence? I could go on article. The thing is with articles, right here. The thing is with articles, you can go online and you can look for an article in this, that, and whatever, and at some point you will find something that suits what you want to say. Yeah.
But I'm not just talking about articles. Distinction is pure edited articles versus blogs. Anybody can go and make a blog site, but anybody can't produce a pure edited article. What I'm showing you is what we call in America scholastic sources. This literally means that it's scholarship and research that went towards making these things. So I can show you this one right here. It's based off of research in there.
Are you
peer edited?
You're breaking up a little bit.
This means that other people that are their colleagues, that their peers, just pulling out some random blogs. You talk.
You're breaking up a little. You broke up a little bit there.
Hold on. Oh, hold on. This is weird. Why let me go? Oh, bam. Is it good now?
Can you see me? I don't. That might have been me. It might have been you. I don't know. I think I caught the gist of what you were saying. So the thing is with articles, let's talk about say for example, articles about Trump. Let's say that's been a hot talking point recently, isn't it? You could find articles that say that Trump's a racist, Trump's a white supremacist, Trump's this, Trump's that, and I'm sure people that are on your side of the fence would believe them, right? But you could also then go and find an article that says the complete opposite, that is from somebody just as credible. So which is true? That's the problem. That's the problem with articles. That's the problem with articles.
articles though. I'm making a distinction that says that all articles are not created equal, and I think that what you're talking about is more like blog articles. Yeah, anybody can produce a blog on the website, on the internet. Anybody, however, cannot create a pure edited article. You feel me? I'm using scholarship articles. I can show you where the sources come from. This article I'm about to show you, I'm gonna show you exactly what research quantified the studies or the findings in these things. And I think that when we start talking about articles, yeah, I know anybody can go find an article that says the world is flat. You ain't gonna find no scholarship article, a scholastic article that says the world is flat.
But the thing with any article, with any claim, it's got to be backed up with evidence, right? You've got to have some hard evidence. Where are you going?
I'm right here. I got my right here.
You're going to show me that webpage again, right? Right here. That's the article. That's the article, right? There's a PhD. Right,
different one.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about the trading of slaves. While I was looking for documents, preserved documents that would be hard evidence to suggest or to show Sweden's involvement in the buying, selling, or transportation of African slaves, I completely accidentally came across a lot from the USA, obviously, a lot from Great Britain, some from Denmark, some from France, some from Germany, some from Portugal, and even Sweden's neighbour, Denmark, right? Preserved copies of registers from slave ships, newspaper articles, letters from slave owners that are hard documented proof that those countries were involved in the trading of slaves. I couldn't find one from Sweden, and it's because there aren't any.
I got one right here. It comes from the University of Bergen. I got one right here. It comes from the University of Bergen. It's entitled "The Transatlantic Slave." It's called the Transatlantic and Intra-American Scandinavian Slave Trade. It's one of the first articles that I do edit you on. This is literally the first This is the first 3 sentences of the article. From the mid-17th until the mid-19th century, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden actively participated in the transatlantic acquisition, transportation, and selling of Africans to the Americas and within the Caribbean. Based on new data currently available online, the talk will introduce some of the patterns and the routes that the Scandinavians used to conduct the Atlantic slave trade. It comes from the University of Bergen, so it's not no American university. It's a university that comes from Norway, Sweden. You feel me? This is what it says right here. Norway in the world of slavery. And it talks specifically about African slave trade. It even show you on the map. It even show you on the map, you feel me? Specifically, how were the Swedish and the Scandinavian, pretty much what were the Scandinavian routes they taking? This right here showing you where it was taken. Department of Foreign Language, University of Bergen.
Okay, so how come, again, it's an article, how come there are preserved documents?
It's not just an article, bro. It's like this right here. Would you say this textbook is an article? You would say it's a textbook, correct?
Well, no, it's a textbook. How come there are preserved documents from Norway? There are preserved documents from Denmark that prove, as in registers from slave ships, undeniably, here's a preserved document that I wish I had on me right now, but as I'm at work and I wasn't expecting this today, that prove they were, but you can't deny that. It's a preserved document with the names of slaves, the name of the captain of the ship, the name of the ship. Why aren't there any from Sweden?
The reason why there aren't any in Sweden is because to me, I think everything that you showing me in this debate right here is a great masterful illustration of how the education you went to did a great job in being able to gloss over their history. So if I'm able to show you 5, 6 articles that literally document this history of Swedish slavery, and you can sit here and look with a straight face, be like, well, how come Sweden ain't got none of these documents coming from? It's like, fam, I'm showing you all of these articles that document the history.
So what that seems to me, what you're suggesting then is there aren't any preserved documents from Sweden's participation in the transportation of slaves because we're in demand?
I gave you already one document. The Treaty of Stockholm is a preserved document that literally shows that there's a history of slavery in Sweden. You want a preserved document? You should go to Google right now and type in the Treaty of Stockholm.
Yeah, that shows when Sweden outlawed slavery, correct?
Correct.
Yes, that has nothing to do with specifically the transportation, buying, or selling of Africans. As I said to you before, the slaves that
go and read the language of the treaty, it's specifically outlawing African slaves. Specifically.
The slaves that Sweden had were native to the Caribbean. They were not African.
So how did they get to Sweden? That's the question. How do native slaves from the Caribbean find their way in Sweden?
Well, they got transported by the Swedes, didn't they? But they're not African. That was my point.
You with that last statement you just made, it literally proves my entire beef with you right now.
But they weren't African. That was my point from the start.
To get from the Caribbean island to Sweden, they had to be transported. Who transported them? The Swedes.
The Swedes did, yeah.
That means
they weren't African.
You are saying
they didn't buy, sell, or transport any African slaves. That's what I've said from the word go. And that's the truth. There is nothing to suggest otherwise. The slaves that they had were from the Caribbean. And I'm not
from Bartholomew to Sweden.
Yes, swam? Caribbean slaves. But I've never disputed that.
Fam. And this right here, I'm glad it's recorded. I'm definitely uploading this. You and I both acknowledge that all the black people in the Caribbean islands are descendants of Africans. So why are you playing these games right now trying to not acknowledge that the descendants in the Caribbean islands that were slaves were descendants of African people? Why don't you want to acknowledge that?
But you can't say, if someone is born in the Caribbean, then they're a Caribbean native. I'm an English native.
I was born and raised in America. I'm an African American. My DNA is African blood that runs through me. I ain't never been to the continent. It's not to negate that I'm African American, bro.
Right, yeah, but I'm not.
I'm an American native. You feel me? I'm born and raised in America. I'm a descendant of African people.
Yeah, okay. I was born and raised in England. Would you call me Swedish? Would you call me Swedish English?
Yes. Of course
you wouldn't.
Yeah,
I'm English. I'm British.
The reason why you and I having the debate is because you self-identified yourself as being Scandinavian. I didn't call you Scandinavian. I don't, ain't nothing written on your head that said you Scandinavian. You came out and told me you were Scandinavian because you still identify with the ancestry of being Scandinavian. So don't try to play them games trying to say you're not Scandinavian.
What I said is my ancestry is Scandinavian, as your ancestry is African. Completely correct. But that doesn't make me a Swedish British person, does it? It makes me British. I was born in Britain. I was raised in Britain. I'm British.
Lives in England. It makes you a person that comes from.
You're breaking up again. Your sound's gone.
They recognize that they are Europeans. They don't call themselves American.
I'm struggling to hear you, mate.
But they still teach me about the Greeks, about the Romans, about the cat, because that's their history. That's their ancestry. That's all I'm saying right here. You feel me? So regardless of where you live, it doesn't negate your ancestry.
Right. I could only hear bits of that, unfortunately. I could see you moving. I couldn't hear most of the words that were coming out your mouth, I'm afraid. And see, this is right. I'm not 100% sure all of what you said, so this reply might not even make a lot of sense. But if someone was born and raised in a certain country and they've got ancestry in another country, like I would suggest a lot of the population of the world has, we don't all go around saying I'm this. Like, for example, you would identify yourself as African American, right? Even though you're American as a white American that has ancestry from Europe. If someone in the USA, born and bred in the USA, white, and has, say, great-grandparents from Germany, for argument's sake, are they a German American? No, they're American. They were born in the USA, they were raised in the USA, as were their parents, as were their grandparents, right? They're American. You wouldn't call them German American, you'd call them American. You might call them American of German descent, but you wouldn't call them German American. Their passport wouldn't say German American in the same way yours doesn't say African American. You are an American citizen. I am a British citizen. I'm not a Swedish and British citizen because I wasn't born in Sweden. My parents aren't Swedish, so I'm British.
In nationality, like right now, we're talking about racial identities, ethnic identities, and national identities. All nation states make up multiple ethnic identities and multiple racial identities. Here's an example. You live in the UK, correct? We know there are multiple ethnicities within the UK, and we understand that even in the UK census, the UK acknowledges that everybody is not white. You feel me? When I go and you census population here in America, Americans tell me that I'm African American. America tells me African comes before being America. That's not me. That's America acknowledging that. You feel me? Put it like this: when your country Brexit, you remember, and y'all kicked all the people out. That was y'all acknowledging that you only want Anglo-Saxons being in the country. So you now trying to play this game of saying like, well, if I'm a German American and I'm white, do I call myself German American? No, because we understand that the white identity has a little bit more than that. But what we not gonna do is try to make it like where you live is some racial neutrality thing. It's like Brexit proves everything I'm saying. Brexit proves everything I'm saying right now. It's that there's a racial identity in your country, and that politics is based off of how a lot of those racial identities come about. So we're gonna, if you're not from America, I mean, if you're not from Britain, we're gonna kick you out. The whole world's seen it.
But this might sound pernickety, but did you just call it Brexit, as in BL?
Yeah, Brexit. I'm being funny. I'm being funny because the black conservatives now, they use that same idea and call it Brexit. I know I'm talking about Brexit, you feel me? But it's the same thing. No, you want certain people to exit for the reasons. But yeah, Brexit. I'm saying the same. I'm using interchangeably.
Oh, so that's right. So what? Right. Okay. Let me clarify. Are you referring to Brexit, but using Blexit as a bit of a play on words? Right. Okay. So what part of Brexit makes you think that British people want to evict people of color?
Let's see. I think that I can go. I feel like right now I can go to Google and I can type in Brexit and I'm gonna see
I don't want Google. I'm not using Google. What do you think? I want your opinion. I don't want Google.
A research over me search. That means I'm gonna be able to do some type of searching and make up me. And I feel like an informed on feelings. So when I literally look around the world and I see all of the reactions to Brexit, I see a whole bunch of non-white British people talking about them being excavated from the UK because they are not white. I see a whole bunch of people, you know, because you know, Britain, right? You know, Britain took all the resources from all the people all over the world and then get mad and cry and say, why are you coming to my country? Because you stole everything from ours. We see that all the people that come from India, different African countries, literally talked about Brexit having racial implications of y'all doing the same thing that people doing here in America. Brexit is the same thing. White people and white people in the UK saying, hey, man, we don't want to do this multicultural thing. We want to be able to keep all the resources we stole from you people of color for ourselves. That's what it means.
Okay. So do you realise Brexit means we're leaving the EU, right? That's what it means.
Yes, I realize that. And what I'm telling you is
all right, hang on.
Why they want to leave the EU? Because they was tired of all of the multiculturalism. They ain't want to be a part of it no more.
Right. Okay. So what resources did we steal from Poland?
I ain't talking about Poland. I'm talking about I'm talking about all of the non-white countries. So you want to talk about India? Talk about the
none of them are
I ain't talking
countries
about
countries that aren't in the EU.
You said what?
Countries that aren't in the EU. We voted to leave the EU.
Listen,
that's got nothing to do with India.
You're the EU. I'm centering race and the racial implications of why UK wanted to exit the EU.
Right.
That's my
we wanted to.
Racial reason why your country wanted to leave this entity. It was based off of race and race.
But how can you say it's based off a racial thing when the vast majority, if not all, of EU countries have a massively overwhelming population of white people?
Fam, I'm making an argument about how the reason why the UK wanted to dip is because those white people were playing too much in harmony with people of color, and the people of UK said we don't want to do that no more. That's what I'm saying. You can acknowledge that, yes, all of Europe is predominantly white. What I'm making the analysis and saying is that the UK said that we do not want to be a part of the EU is because y'all have too many people of color that y'all are in harmony with.
So you think that Britain wanted to cut ties with the EU because the EU are saying have too many people of color that they're in harmony with? Is that what you're saying?
What are you asking me?
Is that I'm trying to clarify? Forgive me for being dumb, bald, and English, but are you saying that the UK wanted to leave the EU because there were too many people in the EU that were saying we're at harmony with people of color?
Yeah. The word.
So Britain said no.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. No, I just wanted to clarify that I had understood that correctly. Okay. So then. Okay. So
because they said too much.
Yeah, again, I'm struggling to hear every single word. I'm getting like every other word. So, okay, explain if I've understood that correctly. Then explain to me how, when you go into Central and Eastern Europe, places that are in the EU, such as Poland and the Czech Republic and Hungary, they are much more conservative, much more right wing, and much more likely to be racist than the English. How come we wanted to cut ties with that?
Fam, white people globally will always be able to make compromises of conflicts. So you acknowledging to me that there are other places that are more white and more conservative. We know that in terms of having an international analysis, white people will always have the ability to make a compromise. And what I'm telling you, based off of policy, is that the UK was unwilling to make a compromise with the other countries in the that was having too much of an influx of people being imported into their country, or people immigrating to their country. And what I know is that I'm willing to put any money you want to put on and going to whatever sources I got to go to that's credible to be able to prove what I'm talking about in terms of white flight, or should I say white exclusion.
Right. So how many refugees, if you think Britain has got a problem with people of color and that's essentially why we're choosing to leave the EU,
Fam, hey, bro, I'm really at this point, in America,
you
patriotism
realize
mean that
you
care.
realize you fucked up when you started talking to a British man about Brexit. You were making some good points about the Sweden thing, and then you went on to Brexit. Now you realize you fucked it up, and you won't let me ask a question.
Slavery. I mean, we still can get to the slavery, but what I know based off you asking me this question right now is that you don't have much engagement with non-white people in your country, because if you literally go to any black person that's in the UK's social media page, they're gonna talk to you about all of the racism that happens in the UK.
So, okay, let me again, because I can't quite get every single word you're saying. So I just want to make sure I'm getting this correct. Are you suggesting that every black person in the UK has experienced racism?
Nope. I am suggesting that majority of the black people in the UK has an experience to talk to racism.
Okay,
what makes you suggesting?
Right, what makes you think that? I'm not saying. I'm just asking. What makes you think that?
I know that based off of how social media has made the world smaller. As a matter of fact, my ass made a video not too long ago saying, hey, people in the UK, we tired of y'all talking about racism in America as if there's no racism there in the UK. Because I got 1.3 million followers, damn near every black person in the UK reached out to me and told me, hey, consciously, next time you make one of those videos, speak specifically to the white people in the UK, because us black folks in the UK, we know that is racism in the UK. As a matter of fact, we experience it every single day. I know that because they told me.
Right. So that's the majority of black people in the UK, is it?
Fam. I don't know if you know how studies work, but you kind of be like, so are you trying to generalize all of the UK because of a few people? All I'm saying is the burden of proof is on you. I'm saying that I have conversations with black people in the UK, and they tell me consciously the white people in the UK is a lot like the white people in the US. Racist.
So, okay, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. Obviously, I'm not blinkered. Obviously, there are racist people, and people are on the receiving end of disgusting remarks and disgusting treatment because of the color of their skin. That happens in probably every country. So I'm not blinkered. I know that happens here, but it does seem like you are talking on the behalf of the majority of people of color in the UK. And I think that's a big generalization that a lot of people.
I'm speaking to the white supremacy in the UK. That's what I'm speaking to. I know that there is white supremacy that structures the UK, and I'm making an argument that says that I can show politically, socially, and economically that the UK is still tied in white supremacy like Sweden. We know that Sweden and the UK was pretty much partners in crime when it comes to doing any crimes to the world, whether it's slavery or colonialism. You feel me? The reason why you and I right now is because we have a disagreement on the historical implications of Sweden insofar of African slavery. Somehow, because I made a Brexit reference, now we're talking about the UK. However, we know that the entirety of the UK and the entirety of Sweden's economy would not be nothing without African slavery. I'm willing to whoop anybody's ass on this particular argument and saying that Europe, the entire continent of Europe, would not be nothing without the continent of Africa. Shout out to Walter Rodney. That's all I'm saying. entirety of your continent is structured by slavery.
That's a big claim, you know.
It's a big claim. I got any money you want to put on it? You want to set it up? We can have a structured debate. I got it. I'm saying that the entirety of Europe, the whole economy of Europe is structured by African slavery.
Okay, what makes you say that? That's an interesting point. It's a big claim. So what makes you say that?
Literally, see, 90% of the wealth that's in Europe has been taken out of Africa. As a matter of fact, we know that majority of the 5 nation states in Europe, politically, socially, economically, their surplus of profit come from Africa, man.
Uh-huh. I
book
wonder
called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. It's a book called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. It's a great book. I encourage you to read it.
And how much, and I wasn't expecting this tonight, so I don't have the figures to hand, but how much of Africa's economy do you think is owed to Europe if you want to go down that road?
None of it.
Do you not think?
None. Yeah, none of it.
Because if you want to say that Europe's economy, or at least the vast majority of it, is owed to, well, not necessarily owed to, but is structured on or
the
built by, you say? Yeah. So you could.
My bad. I'm in the right. My bad.
So surely then the counter, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, right? Surely then the counter argument could be, well, Europe colonizing Africa and doing things like building railways, building hospitals, building schools, creating an economy, giving them currency, giving women rights, giving them borders, created their economies, right? Could you not say that?
I would say that's what I think. I think the white folks that came up with this concept, maybe from the country you is, what you talking about is the white man's burden that is able to justify and rationalize with any white supremacist violence. Insofar you can say, hey, black people, me fucking you up meant that I gave you roads. Because what we do know is that African people already had the intelligence to be able to give us highways. We already had the resources to be able to do us highways. What we know is that it's the white countries that want to say, hey, we civilized y'all, so us doing the bad shit to you is justified. No. That's white supremacist. What you just did was literally put forth textbook white supremacist ideology that says that Europeans colonizing the world is the white man's burden. That is literally a myth. That is a myth. And shit white people did in Africa could have been done that black folks couldn't do for themselves. So you want to talk about the railways, the schools being built? All of that was possible in Africa before Europeans got there. As a matter of fact, I would argue that a lot of these, that's white supremacy, fam.
So why hadn't it been done?
Why hasn't what been done? Because of white supremacy. We know that literally, as a matter of fact, this somebody seen 2 weeks ago. I think it's Switzerland. Switzerland has, I think, like 60% of their economy that's built off of African chocolate. Because Ghana said that we are no longer going to be sending you our African chocolate. Ooh, man, now Switzerland is worried because they recognize that literally a significant part of their economy is structured off of a natural resource that is not natural to their country. You feel me? See what I'm saying? I give a whole bunch of examples. There are literally, you know what? I throw a number out there. I'd say 70% of the world's corporations would not exist without the natural resources that's there in Africa. Ain't nothing in Africa that you can be like, well, that wouldn't exist unless the Europeans came and colonized. Oh, that's fake. That's a lie. That's a myth. And what I'm arguing, that's a white supremacist myth that justifies dehumanization of black people.
Okay, so that's a good, interesting, and incredibly long answer to the question. Let's go with what you said a minute ago, yeah, that African people before European colonization, they had the know-how to build, say, schools, railroads, etc., etc. Why had they not done it?
Why had they not done it? What you mean? They done it. They done it. Timbuktu, the library of Timbuktu, it exists. We know that the Egyptian pyramids exist. We know that regardless of how advanced the Western world wants to believe it is, y'all have still no answer to how the people of Egypt was so brilliant to be able to make those pyramids. So when you ask the question, have you ever been to Ghana? I ain't never been to Ghana. I seen pictures. They got things that's beautiful out there. You feel me? What we know is that in the Western world, anytime that there's something in Africa that you don't understand, y'all say aliens did it.
Yeah, all right. With the greatest of respect, and I accept what you're saying about the pyramids, but that's not a school or a hospital.
Fam, like literally the pyramids are energy generators. The Timbuktu's is literally a school. Timbuktu school, I just took you to West Africa and East Africa. Timbuktu is in West Africa. We understand that was a school, bro. That was a whole ass school. You feel me? Alexander the Great, you know what I'm saying? A lot of the European philosophers, what we talking about, Socrates, they don't have none of that stuff without going to Africa. So when you ask me the questions, why haven't they built it right now? Like, fam, are you serious? Are you serious? They built
So
right.
do you? Okay, based on your logic that basically pretty much everything's owed to Africa is essentially what you're saying in the shortest way possible. What you're saying is
Definitely.
everything's owed to Africa.
The world owes everything that it loves to the continent of Africa and the descendants of African people. I take that debate on any time. Saying it simply, Sweden would not be, no. The entirety of Europe would not be what it is today without them stealing, killing from Europe. Simple statement.
Without them stealing, killing from Africa, you mean? I said Europe again.
Yeah.
So what about where? Let's take China, the largest growing economy in the world. What do they owe to Africa?
What do they owe to Africa? They owe some. Currently, right now, China is literally being a trailblazer for neo-colonialism. So what happened was the same scheme that the Europeans was able to use to go and pillage Africa through the scramble of Africa. We see that now through virtual things, being able to give people loans. China is now currently, you see this pattern I got on my head, it's called dashiki print. China right now mass producing this print right here that comes from Africa and literally being able to bankrupt the market. So I gave you a present example of how China is now messing over Africa. It's 7 continents in the world. You feel me?
But don't you think then
outside of Africa owes political, social, and economic debts towards Africa? Yeah, I make that argument.
So what do you think should be done about that?
Reparations. As a matter of fact, a lot of the wealth that France, UK, Sweden, a lot of these countries think they own and have, give it up. You feel me? You know that we was just talking about the UK and talking about how what was Meghan Markle was caught up in that shit. What I found is that the biggest diamond in the world was found in South Africa. You know where that diamond is now located? In your country with the colonizers. Get that shit up. Everything that colonizers believe is theirs, that has been gained through colonialism, give it up. Is that too much to ask for? I bet it is, though, huh?
Okay, so on an individual basis, what should I give up?
What do you think that you have entitlement to that can be tied back to colonialism or slavery? Let's start with that.
Nothing.
Individual, what do you own that can be tied back to African slavery or colonialism?
Nothing.
Nothing? Well, I guess they go then. I guess you answered the question then. You have no responsibility or accountability with dealing with how you are in the world today. I find it funny, but oh well. Because we know that president supposed to be in the States. You feel me?
Okay, so
I'm in the States. I would not be in this position I am in without the Europeans taking my ancestors and making them slaves. So I find it funny you can say your existence today ain't got no tie to colonialism or slavery and say, man, I'm a magician, bald head Eggman, that everything I have, I worked hard for it, and nobody gave anything to me ever. No distribution of wealth, and everything I have, I worked for it. That's a lie.
Well, it's not. Because I worked for everything I own. So that's not a lie, is it?
Iron in there? Is it iron? Is it iron in that truck you in? Is it iron? Iron?
Is that
talking about iron?
Is there iron in my truck? Thank fuck you're not a mechanic. Actually, you know what? There's an iron bar. There's an iron bar in here. There's an iron bar.
So you ain't benefited from none of the cheap labor that was made to make that iron? You ain't benefited from it and getting it at a good price?
No, well, I didn't buy it. It was in the truck anyway. Mercedes bought it.
Shout out to Mercedes, man.
So what should I do? What do I do? Should I give it up?
Should you give it up? First, I think that you need to do some research and figure out specifically how you and your lineage and your culture is tied into colonialism and tied into the slave trade.
Okay. Okay. This is going to sound like this is going to sound like it's off topic, but it's not. It's a bit of a tenuous link, right? Okay. What are your thoughts on electric cars, electric vehicles? Do you think they're the future, or do you think we should stick with petrol, diesel?
I think that electric cars are the future, and I think they are better for the environment than fuel
Okay.
cars.
Where does the vast majority of the world's cobalt come from?
Africa.
Okay. So electric cars shouldn't exist then.
Nuh-uh. This means that the people in the Congo should be able to be the main beneficiaries of the natural stuff from their country. You see what I'm getting at?
So they
That shit that come from Africa cannot exist unless white people make it. What I'm acknowledging is that if we can both acknowledge that cobalt, most of it comes from the Congo, this means that it shouldn't be Apple, it shouldn't be Tesla, it shouldn't be Android that's making the most money off of cobalt. It should be the people that's in the Congo. It's not
okay.
even.
So right. Okay. So what happens? And obviously we both agree on this. Is cobalt gets mined, yeah, and the people who are mining,
people that benefit the most.
Right. Okay. So this is what I'm getting at. So the people who mine it, yeah, especially the little kids who are forced down the mines, which I think is disgusting, they don't really benefit at all. The people who benefit massively are the people who say the heads of Toyota, for example, the heads of Tesla, the pioneers, yeah, of these electric cars. They're all bloody millionaires or billionaires, right? So what you're saying is the main beneficiary, so basically the rich people, should be the people who are going down the mines and fetching the cobalt, essentially. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying essentially is that the people that live in Congo, the people that have their homes, and people that have their sacred and messed up because they mining cobalt, I'm not centering the rich people. I'm centering the people doing the most of the labor. And I'm centering them. I'm saying that they should be the main beneficiaries of the natural resource that's found in their country. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So you think the big profiter from electric cars should be, or one of the big profiters from electric cars should be the people of the Congo, for example?
I'm not
because
saying one of the biggest. I'm saying that the biggest beneficiaries of cobalt should be the people in the Republic of Congo. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay. So how would you, if you were going to implement some legislation to say that the people of the Congo were going to be the biggest beneficiaries from the cobalt, how would you implement that? How would you realistically put that into place? And how would you then, if they were going to be the biggest beneficiaries, get these electric cars manufactured and then sold?
What are you asking me right now? I don't get what you're asking me.
No, so you think that the beneficiaries, the main beneficiaries, or at least a large beneficiary collectively, should be the people of the Congo, because that's where the majority of the cobalt comes from. The people who are actually benefiting are the heads of Tesla, who are worth a disgusting amount of money, etc., etc., and these big car manufacturers. So if you were in, say you were some magic global world leader all of a sudden, and you could, by executive order, make the people of Congo be the beneficiaries, or at least not necessarily the main, but one of the large beneficiaries of the produce of this cobalt that then gets sold in large quantities to make batteries for electric vehicles. How would you then, if they're going to be a large beneficiary of said product, how would you then get the cars manufactured and sold?
You get them manufactured and sold the way that bartering been going since the beginning of time. I think that the Congo people, they're brilliant people, they're smart people, they're intelligent people. They have the means and have the capacity to be able to figure out how to distribute cobalt, bro. It's not a hard question.
So how much do you think they would distribute it? Well, you can't give me an exact number, but if they distributed it, if they were the main beneficiary and therefore they were charging a huge amount more to distribute cobalt, or at least they were the ones in charge of distributing cobalt, you realize how much more expensive electric cars would be, and no one would ever be able to buy one.
So right now, it sounds like you're saying that exploitation of the Congo is good because it means that we get cheap electric cars. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're not exploiting them, are we? We're not the ones forcing. Yeah, but it's not the English or the Americans that are forcing 8-year-old kids down the mines.
Exploitation of the Congo. You and I are individually implicated within the exploitation of the Congolese people. You and I, individuals, consciously, Barry Egg, both of us are individually implicated. When you and I, nobody forced us to buy these phones. Nobody forced us to have charters. Nobody forced us. We bought it. I'm talking to you right now on a device that got cobalt in it. I'm not a black person. I'm not immune to this violence going down. You feel me?
Do you not, rather than saying it's my fault and your fault and people, it's the consumer's fault. It effectively is what you're saying. It's the consumer of that product's fault. Do you not put any onus or responsibility on the governments of the countries, such as the Congo, that are allowing this kind of human rights exploitation to happen? How much do you blame them? How much is it their responsibility?
They have responsibility. They definitely have responsibility. And I think that this is how I show consistency. The reason why you and I are on this little old duo live is because you want to ignore the responsibility and accountability that Sweden has in terms of historical African slavery. You're now asking me a question. What does the accountability of the country have to do with anything? I'm saying it has to do. I'm saying that there is some responsibility and accountability with the Congo people. My question to you, how come you ain't got the same energy when it comes to acknowledging these slave boats that Sweden was? How come you can't acknowledge that Sweden allowed for this to happen?
How are you relating this back to boats docking in St. Bartholomew again?
My link, yeah, definitely. The internal link, the reason why these things are related is because you're acknowledging that when there's certain type of actions that come from a country, that the government has to be held accountable in some way, shape, form, or fashion for what's happening. What I'm acknowledging, I think that's true. I think it's big explicit. That's true. The Congo government, the officials in Congo, they are definitely implicated when it comes to the exploitation of their people. What I'm acknowledging to you is that you have to have consistency when it comes to acknowledging how Sweden had that Caribbean island where they were allowing for people to park their boats. My question to you, does the federal government of Sweden not have no accountability of what they were allowing to happen?
Well, I believe so, yeah. I do believe so.
There he is, man. I think I feel like I should successful debate then. I feel like I didn't got you to
well,
say
no, because that wasn't the debate. Because that wasn't the debate. The debate was, did Sweden buy, sell, or transport any African slaves? The answer is no.
You just acknowledge in more ways than some. You just acknowledge that Sweden has to be held accountable in some way, shape, form, or fashion for allowing slave boats to be parked at their ship, just like you acknowledge right now. So consciously, how much is the black government of the Congo involved with them being responsible for what's happening to their people?
Difference is when Sweden in the colony in the Caribbean were allowing ships to dock, if they didn't charge them to dock, the whole colony, all the people in it, the whole economy would have suffered. Yeah. But when you use that example in the Congo and them forcing kids down mines, it's a completely different set of circumstances. Because if the Congolese government did something about these awful human rights exploitations that are happening under their own feet right now, their economy wouldn't suffer. Their economy wouldn't crumble. It wouldn't disintegrate. They'd have to make some changes, but it wouldn't disintegrate. The whole island of St. Bartholomew relied on that port. Any ship that came into it, no matter what it was transporting, had to pay to park, essentially. Yeah, it was absolutely essential. We couldn't afford to let them park for bloody free. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that there was absolutely no accountability from Sweden, because what Sweden could have potentially said is, you know what, we don't like that. We're not going to allow you to park here. But the whole economy, the whole island, including all the people who lived on it, including natives, would have suffered. They'd have had no economy. That's the difference. When you look at the Congo and them forcing kids down mines, the government could do something about that. They could do something about that and still have an economy and still have the mine and still have the country that they have now.
They couldn't do something about it, though. The word that I haven't thrown out here is power. We understand that when African countries, when African leaders try to dictate through policy what should happen in their countries, we know that the UN and a whole bunch of different Western countries put different sanctions on them and literally make it where they can't do trade and where they can't engage in world trade. So when you say that they could just do X, Y, and Z, I think that you don't have a realist understanding of how international relations work. Because we know that throughout the continent of Africa, one can ideally say, well, they can do what they want to do. That it's not real. You feel me? Like, think about it right now. In Zimbabwe, you feel me? Mugabe said that, hey, all you white farmers that stole the land of my people, you have to get that land back. Because Mugabe wanted to do that, we've seen a whole bunch of European countries now want to come through and give sanctions. So when you ask the question, couldn't the Congo just do what they want to do? Hell no, they couldn't do what they want to do, because they still have to answer to all of the corporations that's making it possible, or should I say they're exploiting them into possible to make it where they have to be importing all this stuff. Because it's not just the Congo too with the cobalt. We know that in America, in Europe, in Asia, a lot of them have rubber in their tires. We know that all that rubber resource come from Africa. You can ask the same question. Well, consciously, couldn't the African country that's producing all of the rubber just say, that's not how neocolonialism works? It was that simple. We'll literally make it where Africa would be the most richest continent in the world. But it's not that simple, because we see that France, the UK, Sweden, all these European countries get mad when black people want to do what they want to do, how they want to do it, and y'all literally don't you do that. Don't you do that, Ghana. Don't you do that, Nigeria. Don't you do that, like, don't you do that, Senegal. That's what y'all do. That's literally what happens.
So that's what you think's happening. You think essentially that the white man is slapping the black man's hand. Sorry?
I know this is happening.
Yeah. So an interesting quote that you just said is, white people are effectively, I'm not going to remember this word for word, but effectively, white people are stopping black people from doing what they want to do.
Yeah, that's literally what I'm saying. Literally. White supremacy. Literally. It's literally what I'm saying. Literally what I'm saying.
Don't you think that that's what BLM do in America?
Hell no. BLM ain't killed nobody. BLM ain't put nobody in jail.
BLM haven't killed anybody. No. So that little
nope.
That little 5-year-old that was murdered, then that wasn't BLM, no?
Hell no, that wasn't BLM.
No?
Hell no, that wasn't. Hey, I feel like you asking me this question, all it showed me is that you have close proximity to your white American counterparts. Every black person that does something bad, it's not a part of BLM. I don't know if you know that or not. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, if I slap the shit out of somebody right now, I said Black Lives Matter, but I'm not a member of Black Lives Matter. You feel me? So if I slap the shit out of somebody, it would be bad for you to say Black Lives Matter.
Where's your accountability, man?
Like, no,
where's your accountability? Where's your accountability now?
I'm not a Black Lives Matter member. See what I'm saying? To me, it'd be like saying that every person that believes in Christianity does this, that. To me, it's like, it's not the same thing. Answer your question. Black Lives Matter did not kill nobody.
No. Okay. Right. So that's okay. So that's like me saying colonialism never killed anybody, isn't it? It's just false.
By existing definition, colonialism is defined by the ability to kill people. Black Lives Matter is defined by the empowerment of black people to be resistance to police brutality. You see how one of those things always deal with death and one of them do not? There's a false correlation between colonialism and Black Lives Matter. There's no relationship between. As a matter of fact, they don't like Black Lives Matter or colonizers.
So you think that part of the definition of colonialism is to kill people?
Yeah. Dehumanization is a part of colonialism. When one country goes and colonizes another country, they not only do they dehumanize the population they're colonizing, in many instances they kill them. Go ask people. People over here in America.
So I'm not saying, get this straight. I'm not saying that colonists never killed anybody, colonialists never killed anybody, because obviously people did die. But if you think one of the main definitions of colonialism is to go into a country and kill the population, why did European colonialists build so many hospitals and provide Africans with so much medicine and build schools to educate?
Because y'all lazy as hell. And as a result of being lazy as hell, you realize that you're doing the work. The people that's doing the work is going to get sick and have to be fed. And as a result of being lazy, Europeans created schools and ways to feed them, because they knew that in order for them to use that slave labor, they had to be nutrition. They had to be fed. They had to be thirst. That's the only way you're able to do it. You feel me?
So what?
You keep on white burden. It's funny to me.
the workforce back then would have been men, right? Would have been African men.
African men, because specifically, why was it African men? Because white men were able to.
Right. So the workforce would have been African men, like you said, and we built schools and we fed them and we medicated them, etc., so we could keep our workforce fit and healthy. Is essentially what you're saying. So why did we also advocate for women's rights?
Who is we, and where are women's rights at?
Well, colonists in Africa advocated and installed women's rights in a lot of places. A lot of European colonies invested and installed women's rights to stop the horrendous treatment of women by some tribes in Africa. So if it was just we wanted to keep our workforce fed and watered, why did we spend so much money making sure women were okay?
Because you didn't do that. You don't give it. Listen, let me say this simple. Europe ain't never gave a damn about no African women, bro. Ain't no African buying that. Nobody buying that shit, man. Literally,
I'm sure I could use your best friend Google right now and find some articles, documents about European colonialists introducing women's rights to Africa. I most definitely could. But we're having a conversation between two men, and I'm not going to go Googling things.
That's a white supremacist myth that says that when white people, black people, we gonna try to say we do something good for you to justify whooping your ass. So we gonna justify and think about irrational what you're saying. When the Europeans came to Africa, they colonized, and through colonizing, they brought women's rights. Mm-hmm. So did women? So the African women have rights in colonial Africa?
In fact, Britain, thanks to charities, is still sending a huge amount of money to African countries now to try and stop
question. Did African women have women's rights in
Oh, I didn't hear the question. You broke up.
Country or than your country has stolen more from Africa than it's ever given.
Yeah, right. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about women's rights.
We're talking about women's rights, and what I'm saying is that that your country, your continent, has given more colonialism than they ever could breathe in terms of talking about women's rights. And my question is that if you believe that the Europeans brought women's rights through colonialism, how many women's rights that African women have during colonialism of every year?
Let's equate it to things that are actually going on right now in Africa and things that European countries and the USA, and especially Britain, through charities, are trying desperately to stop, such as female genital mutilation. What do you think about that?
I think that when Western countries try to make this white savior shit and make it like you doing something for somebody, you don't know what's going on, you literally get to do what I call cultural genocide, where you get to inscribe cultural values on the other people. What you call genocide, some people see it as being liberation. You feel me? Like I don't universal understanding of that.
What are your views? What are your personal views on the practice of FG? I don't want to keep saying the full name in case this gets banned. But what are your personal views?
I don't have many views on it. My views on it is that when it comes to characterizing it as good or bad, I see it as being a Western idea that tries to demonize non-white Western practices by saying it's inhumane. Are you circumcised? Do you see that as male?
I'm not talking about me. No, hang on. There's a difference. There's a difference between being circumcised and having part of your anatomy removed so you cannot enjoy that type of activity. That's a big difference. If you want to talk about you want to talk about Europeans and the white influence dehumanizing people. Do you not think it's dehumanizing to women when they are forcibly mutilated so they can't enjoy that type of activity? Do you not think that's dehumanizing? Do you not think that's advocating for treating them like objects? And I say, what are your views on FGM? And you say, you have no opinion. That's disgusting.
Hey, you ain't got no ethical ground to try to turn up on me right now. What I'm telling you is that in some instances, people that have it done unconsensually, that is bad. I'm not going to sit here and try to create a Western understanding that says every instance this happens equals X. That is a white supremacist understanding that justifies white people going and colonizing other places and saying, hey, over there. I'm gonna justify enslaving y'all because y'all are doing a genital mutilation to those women. We're gonna enslave those women too, but I'm saving them from you. It don't make any sense.
Do you think FGM is wrong?
In some instances, yeah.
In some. Okay, so give me an example of when it's okay.
I'm acknowledging that there are tribes and women that opt in to what they got, what is going on. What I do know is that regardless of how you see it, white people in Europe don't have no jurisdiction to be able to tell what somebody doing right or wrong, especially because a lot of the conflict that's going on in Africa now is present because of the Europeans, including female genital mutilation.
I hope people got. Oh God! I hope someone got a screen recording of that bit. Jesus, I'm gonna have to definitely download it. You watch me get a strike on this now. I guarantee you. Okay, what? So let's look at.
That's gonna be on my YouTube. So everything I'm saying, I stand on.
Oh, you'll put the bits you want a bit on your. You put the bits you want to. You're gonna want a bit on your YouTube. You ain't gonna put the whole thing on there.
Edit this. I'm literally gonna get off of this. TikTok will give me the ability to download the live. However long this live, with an hour and a half, the YouTube video gonna be that long. I want people to see me getting on your head. I told you about that.
That's cool. If you do the whole thing, then you do the whole thing. Happy days. Oh, happy days. No, I'm cool with that. Okay, so let's take another practice, which is, God, can I even? I don't know. I'm really careful of what I can say and not without getting a bloody strike. The practice of children being forced into marriage in some African nations, not just African nations, but specifically in this case, I'm going to talk about African nations. What are your views on that? Say 11, 12-year-olds that are being forced to marry people and bear kids with them.
This is my views on every piece of crime, violence, unethical thing you're gonna be able to identify in Africa. You feel me? This is not a justification for Europeans coming and colonizing Africa, as well as whatever underage marriage, female population, all of those things are Europe as well.
Answer the question. Answer the question.
I gave you a 5-sentence explanation. I gave you a 5-sentence.
What do you think it's wrong, or do you think it's acceptable, or do you think it's? Let's do one of those scales of strongly disagree to not quite sure to agree to strongly agree, right? The practice of children being forced to marry and forced to bear kids with men a lot older than them. What are your views on that? Do you think that's okay? Where are you on that scale? I want to know.
Specifically, white people would try to say that we are going to Europe to save the kids, and you don't give a damn about none of the kids that's being raped by the Catholics.
Answer the question
right now.
Answer the question. Do you think?
You asking me about what do I think about the kids being raped in Africa is like, listen, this does not justify Europeans going over to Africa. And I also call bullshit because you don't care about kids. If you cared about kids, you'll be trying to make sure those Catholic priests is not touching on those little boys over in Europe.
Let me make this easier for you, right? When it comes to the Catholic priests' abuse of young boys, I think it's absolutely fucking abhorrent. I think it's disgusting. Yeah, and I think that those priests should have the most severe punishment they can possibly receive under the UK justice system. What are your views on young African girls being forced to marry men a lot older than them?
Unethical. Next question. It's unethical. Next question.
Unethical. What? Just unethical. And forced to bear kids. A lot of them die during childbirth. Yeah, because their bodies aren't.
It is unethical, means immoral, dehumanizing. Next.
Yeah, so your reaction there seems very unpassionate. I'm not. Yeah, I don't like the way you reacted to that. But hey, whatever. You've been very. You've been very heated during a lot of this debate and very passionate. Let's use the word passionate. That's a good word. Yeah, you've been very passionate and really speaking from the heart. But as soon as I bring up something that's one of the most abhorrent, disgusting practices in the world, you're just like unethical. Next, like that don't sit right with me, man.
Because my argument is you don't really give a damn about that. You just trying to demonize Africans. That's what my argument is. My argument is that if you care about kids the way you claim, you'll keep that same. But dealing with the Catholic priests, you don't though. You don't justify. You don't say that because Catholic priests or pedophiles. You don't say that. But you're making the same hubris of saying that abuse in Africa. This obviously justifies colonialism. I'm giving you a direct argument against that. And listen to everybody in this live. If you have an issue with me yelling or my passion, get off my shit. I'm not gonna stop how I'm talking for nobody. If you don't like my passion, you don't like raise my voice, step off the live. It's that simple.
Okay. So, listen, don't get me wrong. I've got no issue with your passion and your enthusiasm and the way you come across. What I've got an issue with is how, when I was talking about, when I asked you that last question, how all of that passion and all of that heart and that soul that you've been putting into this whole debate just completely disappeared.
No,
that for me,
I think the word unethical always deal with passion. You asked me a question, consciously, how do you feel about this? I simply responded as being unethical. Do you know what the definition of unethical? Not morally correct.
Do you think? Oh no, I've got no problem with the word you said. It was like, look, I've already explained my point. I'm not going to let this go around in circles. Do you think more should be done to stop these disgusting practices that are happening right now across the world? Practices that I've just mentioned. Do you think more should be done to stop them?
So what?
These practices, such as FGM and arranged marriages between older men and kids that are much too young, do you think more should be done to stop these things from happening?
Yes.
What do you suggest should be done?
Being able to stand up for the people's, making it where people that are being abused in these instances have autonomy to defend themselves or have some type of infrastructure to defend themselves.
Okay, so, and how would you like that to be implemented?
I think that it'll be implemented by making it where in countries like the Congo, if they don't have to spend too much energy worried about being exploited by foreigners, they then have more energy to deal with their own citizens. So I think that if literally non-Western countries stop forcing African countries to use so much energy in defending themselves against them, this would literally result into African countries having more energy to deal with their own shit.
Okay, but we're not talking about the Congo for the minute. I'm talking about Somalia, where these practices are rife.
For example, for Somalia, if foreigners stop going to Somalia, trying to steal a fish, trying to bankrupt the economy of Somalia, Somalians would then have more energy, more resource, more funds to deal with their issues with their own citizens.
Okay, so if that was the case, if it's essentially once again the white man's fault, which is pretty much in layman's terms what you're saying, how come these practices? How come these practices were going on long before any white person went anywhere near the continent of Africa?
Because in human relations, that's why I have a master's degree in human relations. We understand that when humans are in proximity to each other, regardless of their race, class, or gender, there will be conflict. The question is, how does this conflict become institutionalized? When I'm making an argument against it, saying that, yes, African people have been beefing with African people since the beginning of time. I'm making an argument that says that African people have had conflict with African people since the beginning of time. However, my argument is not about conflict. My argument is about colonialism. And what I'm saying is that you cannot justify colonialism of African people because you believe that African people do bad things to African people. This is the same argument that says that, well, if Africans sold Africans into slavery, this means they do slavery too. It's the same argument that says, well, if black people kill black people, our offspring can kill black people too. That's the same logic you use.
This has got nothing to do with colonialism right now. This has got everything to do. This has got. So do you think that, all right, let's put a bit of a hypothetical situation out there. Let's say that white companies, white-owned, should we say, white-owned corporations, like a lot of the mining companies, if not all of them, in Africa, if we all, and any white-owned company that is, as far as you are concerned, exploiting Africans and sort of reaping the rewards from cheap labor, blah, 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 the list goes on, however you want to word it, you understand my point. If all those companies just said, all right, fair enough, Lee, you're right, we're going to leave, and they all packed up and they all left, and they left Africa to its own devices, do you think all this behavior, all this disgusting behavior that's going on, that a lot of the time young girls are the victims of, do you think that would stop?
I already answered this question. I told you, in human relations, if there are humans that are present, there is always going to be the presence of conflict.
Answer the question. It's yes or no.
I just literally said yes. I said yes twice. I told you my credentials of human relations, and saying that what you talking about, shit that humans do to each other, is going to be their existence. What I am
Right.
saying is that if Europeans are not there in Africa, Africa is not being structurally exploited the way it is. That's what I'm saying.
Well, what you've pretty much done is blamed colonialism for ancient tribal practices.
Hell no. I'm saying that colonialism is the reason political, social, economic reality in Africa is the way it is right now. I'm not indicting no traditional African practices at all. As a matter of fact, I would say that colonialism is justified by doing what you say I'm trying to do. By being able to demonize different African practices, it justifies colonialism. I'm going against that. I'm saying the opposite.
Right. So that doesn't really make much sense to the answer you just gave me then, does it?
How? Explain.
Because I asked you if all the white-owned companies that you reckon are exploiting Africans, if they just packed up and left, would all of this behavior, I don't want to keep going on about it because I'll probably get a strike for it if I've not had one already. All of this behavior that a lot of the time young African girls are the victims of, would it stop? You said yes.
No, I did not say yes.
Yes, you did. I said it's a yes or no, and you said yes.
Yes, about proximity in terms of humans always having conflict. You just asking me
Right,
a question.
so you didn't answer the question. So you didn't answer the question.
White people leave Africa, will Africans still have conflict with each other? Yes, I'm not arguing about conflict. I'm arguing about colonialism and arguing about the means of production, saying that if the Europeans control the money in Africa, it would be good.
This is what you see. That's not what I'm arguing. It's like you're. Let's go back to the original point, which was Sweden and accountability and involvement in the North Atlantic slave trade. My argument was Sweden never bought, sold, or transported any African slaves. You turned it into a completely different argument and then said you'd won.
No, I didn't. No, not at all. Not at all. I literally read
You turned it into did Sweden have any accountability? That's not what I said.
What happened was I presented two different articles specifically talking about the scholarship of Sweden being involved in African slave trade. I gave you an analogy talking about Brexit, and that's when you got unfocused and started talking about Brexit in Britain. Me being able to show you, because as a matter of fact, because you want to play them games, all my shit about Sweden is still right here, fam. I'm still debating.
See, I find it interesting that you have a master's degree, but you need to Google everything.
It's called research over me search. If you go to any university, even in Sweden or the UK, you're gonna find that academics always use research to quantify a claim.
But what?
When I got my degrees, they taught me how to be able to justify a point by being able to prove it.
But the thing is, it's. I mean, you're clearly well educated. I'm not denying that. Right, you're clearly well educated, but for someone who pretty much bases their whole existence near enough on TikTok of political stuff, social stuff, human relations, as you say, yeah, it seemed amazing that you still Google everything. I thought you might have remembered some of it.
No, me Googling is not for me. The Googling is for you, because I know how people love to say that us black people, me specifically, consciously is full of emotions. Consciously is full of feelings. Consciously didn't produce any facts. So when I go to Google and I show your ass what it say, I don't want to hear nothing about prove it. I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, you just made that up. I don't want to hear nothing about anybody. I'm showing you. You know what I'm saying? I'm a debate coach. I don't know if you know that now. I'm a debate coach. I pay my bills with debate. There's no way for you to go inside a debate and not have any type of warrants to back up your claims. When I talk about Google with claims, that's me backing up my warrants with claims.
Right. See, no, you
whether you have a degree or not, you can go see if consciously is lying or not. You can go to Google and be like.
But what it seems like is I will make a point and you say, look at this article. And I'm saying, no, I'm not interested in that article because I'm trying to make such a point. And you go, look at this article. Right. What it feels like to me, and this just might just be me, everyone else might disagree. But what it feels like to me is for the most of this debate, almost the whole entirety of this debate, say it's a game of football, yeah, and we're playing against each other. What you do is you take the ball, you run onto the next field, and then you start playing on that field against nobody or against a different team. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, mate. I'm over here. That's what it feels. That's what I feel like you've done.
Hey, this is the last thing I'm gonna say, fam. When you go into, I feel like next time you find yourself into a debate, right? when people bring up evidence to prove their argument, what you saying right now, it's going to be embarrassing because it shows you're not prepared to have a debate. Not only are you not prepared to have a debate, you don't even know how to conduct the debate.
Hang on.
Because if me and you are like this, if I go into a courtroom and the judge says, consciously, are you guilty or are you innocent? And I start pulling out evidence and the judge be like, well, no, consciously. If you're really innocent, you should be able to prove it with your own mouth. It's like, no, I have evidence.
Hang on. You just said I'm not ready for this debate. Obviously, I'm not ready for this debate. I was doing my own live talking about trucking. I'm parked up for the night in my cab.
I'm in the classroom, bro. Listen, bro. What I talk to people about, I was talking today about entrepreneurship.
Obviously, I'm not ready for this debate. You've effectively just blindsided me. Yeah.
I stay ready, so I ain't got to get ready.
What I'm saying is, what you're saying that I've not got any evidence or I've not got any documents or whatever. Obviously not. I'm sat in my bloody lorry cab, mate, at work. I don't have registries on me, do I?
I'm in the bloody classroom, mate.
Well,
it's like you jumped on the live, I jumped on the live. I stay ready, so I ain't never got to get ready. You feel me? I know what I'm literally said.
You're making a nothing point. You're making a nothing point.
I'm so educated. You say what? My bad.
What are you even doing? What are you even doing?
What I'm doing right now is showing literally where I'm at. You're talking about you being in your truck right now. I'm in the classroom. You feel me? And when I was in the classroom, I seen you on live, and I was like, "Woo!" TikTok then gave me the ability to get this man that work. So I'm finna give him the work right now. I'm not in the library. You feel me? I'm not in the sweetest part of the, you know what I'm saying, the library. I literally just topped on, seeing your face, and now I came ready. And I think that everybody that watches this live don't be able to say either one or two things. That guy consciously is full of emotion and feelings and passion, and I can't understand nothing he's saying. Or that bald head dude from the UK got his ass smashed on. Those are the only two things we'll be able to say.
Yeah, well, that's your opinion. I think there'll be a lot of people that disagree with that. Seeing as what you've done, what you haven't done is provided any hard evidence to counter my argument. You've made your own argument.
I gave you two pieces of evidence. Remember the University of Bergen? Remember the University of Bergen? Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, we've been through this. Yeah, we've been through this. That's not evidence that Sweden transported African slaves. Where's the documents, mate?
Hey, fam, I'm gonna let you go, fam.
Right. Where's the document? Why are there documents from Denmark and Norway and then none from Sweden? Where is the proof or the evidence that they even had any slave ships? They never had a single one, mate. Sweden never had any slave ships, mate. Is he gone? Is he? I think he might have gone. It's just I don't know.